What do you think?
My trawler restoration project came with a 4-cylinder diesel engine from the 1980s. I've pulled it out. I'm starting from scratch. We're gonna get a new diesel repower.
Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to Motor City Boat Werks. Let's get to work. Welcome back to my shop. I want to take a moment to welcome all of our subscribers and fans, and especially those of you who are part of the workers, those of you who are contributing to the channel to ensure that we keep making content. Thank you so much. This episode is going to be the first in a series of videos where I talk about the repowering for the diesel engine in the pocket trawler that's behind me. Like a lot of my projects in the boat works, this is going to be a multi-step process. There's going to be a lot of details, kind of a lot of things that we have to do in order to put a new engine inside this boat. And all of those will kind of be grouped together and they'll be put in a playlist, and you'll be able to follow along once they're all completed and kind of see the whole process start to finish. If you're in the future and you're looking back now and you're watching this playlist, just remember that at the time that I was making these videos, well, everything was kind of a little piecemeal. The whole puzzle doesn't quite come together until you get to the very end. You're lucky you get to see that. I'm going to be talking about the process that I went through in order to choose a new diesel engine to put inside this boat. I'm going to be talking about the process of how I ultimately selected and sized some of the components, how things were aligned, how I actually purchased the engine, and then I'll go through actually installing it and talking about some of the highlights of putting a new diesel engine inside a boat like this. I think the first thing that we want to talk about is, well, what engine do you put inside your diesel pocket trawler?
When the Albin 27 was first offered in the early part of the 1980s, it was actually called the Albin 27 Diesel Cruiser, and it came from the factory with a 61 horsepower Ford Lehman diesel engine. As more and more Albin 27s were produced, owners were able to specify what type of engine they wanted. In general, Albin 27s were powered with two versions. One was a smaller engine between 50 and 100 horsepower, and then in the later years, engines that were 100 to 200 horsepower. My boat came from the factory with the Nissan LD28.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, good. I'm going to run this all through and then we're done.
This was a Marinized Nissan car engine. It was very popular in Asia and Australia for a brief period of time, but eventually it was no longer offered. It was discontinued, parts became scarce, it was pretty much obsolete. This is why I opted to pull the engine from my boat. I did a whole episode about it, be sure to check it out. Got rid of it, I sold it off and decided that I was going to repower with a completely different engine. When you're doing a boat restoration on this level, where everything is kind of being replaced and it's made something better than it once was, well, it makes sense to just start with a brand new engine. Because after all, the engine is the most important part of your motor yacht.
So the question is, do you choose a larger engine to put inside the boat, something over 100, 150 horsepower? Or do you choose something that's smaller, 50, 60 horsepower, like what originally came with the boat?
I say it every episode, Motor City Boat Werks has no sponsors. I get compensated in no way for any of the products or the places, the people that I talk about on my channel. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and help spread the word. This channel would not be possible without your support. Thank you.
I think most people would agree that if you looked at the hull of this boat, it's a displacement type of hull. It's something similar to what you might see on a sailboat. It has a keel that sticks out underneath the boat, produces quite a bit of drag. Now, it does have these flat spots on the rear end of the boat, and if you put a large enough engine inside this boat, well, it'll sort of get up on plane. But over the years, I've done quite a bit of research talking to a variety of Albin 27 owners. I interviewed the original naval architect as well as the widow of the owner of Albin USA to get all the details on the early years of the boat and how it was sold over a period of time. The increase in engines over the years was really more of a marketing tactic to meet the public's demand for a cruising boat that could go in excess of 10 knots. It had very little to do with the actual design of the boat. And what I came to determine is that based off of the shape of the hull on this boat, well, it only needs about 18 horsepower to push it through the water.
This is called the max hull speed rule. The hull speed is derived from this formula. Basically, no matter how big your engine is, you're not really going to exceed the hull speed of the boat. The hull speed is an important number because it helps us figure out how much horsepower we need to reach hull speed.
Now you want some extra horsepower to deal with tides or current, whatever's going on. But the fact of the matter is you don't need a 60 or 100 or 150 horsepower engine in a boat with a hull like this. All this led me to decide that I was going to put a smaller engine inside my Albin 27. I think something around 50 horsepower is probably just right.
In the United States, it turns out that there are two companies that offer marine diesel engines kind of in this size range. Of course, the big one is Yanmar. Everybody's heard of them. Yanmar is Japanese, but there's also a company called Beta Marine. Beta Marine is actually based in the United Kingdom, but their engines are marinized Kubota engines, also Japanese. They just add on all the parts that then make it into a marine engine. If you're in Europe, you have some other options, Nanny and Soleil and Vetus, a variety of other companies that sell small diesel engines. But here in the United States, this is really your two choices. Price-wise, I think the two companies are probably competitive. I think Beta Marine offers a number of advantages, the primary one being any replacement parts for their engines, well, they're readily available, and they're significantly cheaper than parts would be from Yanmar. With a little bit of diesel knowledge, the do-it-yourselfer can work on these engines. They're relatively simple. I've known about Beta Marine engines for over 30 years. When I first started working on my classic sailboat, Beta Marine was the company that had the engine to replace the inline Atomic 4 gasoline engine. They offered small diesel engines that were drop-in replacements in classic sailboats. Over the years in the United States, this is really where they kind of captured the market. If you're repowering an old sailboat or an old pocket trawler, well, Beta Marine is the engine that you want. They have this kind of do-it-yourself vibe. They're accessible for the amateur restorer. The U.S. distributorship for Beta Marine is owned by two brothers, Keith and Jimmy Dykes. I met Keith at the 2023 Annapolis Sailboat Show. I decided that I was going to install a Beta Marine engine in the pocket trawler. Over the past several months, over many telephone calls and video chats, Keith and I have discussed the process of installing the engine. He's assured me that a do-it-yourselfer can repower their pocket trawler.
Is this a do-it-yourself type of project? Can a competent amateur do this, or is it really something for a professional?
Well, I mean, anybody can do it. I think there's a lot of videos out there where you see some. There have been some interesting ones where they do it in the water and they figure out a way to kind of crane it over and they bring it out, and so yes, it can be done by a novice or someone. I mean, you have to be able to turn a wrench, obviously. If you don't know which end they're wrenched and stuff like that, I really don't recommend it. But if you're handy, you change your own oil, you've done some, automotive work, if you've ever done any, gasoline work, certainly that would apply. In a lot of regards, a diesel engine is very simple.
For your reference, a diesel engine for this size boat costs between $15,000 to $20,000. That's just for the engine itself. Paying someone to install the engine in your boat, it might cost up to half the value of the engine itself. So you save a considerable chunk of money doing it yourself. You also get command of all the systems that are involved. You really get an understanding how everything's put together, what it takes to keep the engine running when you're out there doing long-term cruising. So I've decided to purchase a Beta Marine engine. It'll be the Beta 43 horsepower. It's going to have a heat exchanger so that I can make use of the engine's temperature to heat up the hot water system for the boat, for hot showers and things like that. I should be able to use the existing shaft and propeller that's in the boat, although we might have to make some modifications down the road. This size engine will allow me to recharge the batteries on the boat. It integrates very well with the electrical system that I've got planned. Dimensionally, I think it's going to fit inside the engine bay, no problem. It should be relatively easy to get it in and out of the boat. Physically, it should be relatively easy to actually do the installation. So I've decided on the Beta 43, and I guess my next question is like, how do we get started? How do I start, what's the first step to get this thing installed?
Yeah, so once we've chosen a model and once we figured out, the best fit for your application, then we just need to make sure what your engine bed looks like. If you really think of it from a very simplistic standpoint, our engine is really only going to touch your boat in 5 points. You got your shaft coupling, which normally isn't going to change, so that location would be a good reference point. And then you've obviously got the 4 engine mounts that will attach to your stringers. So really, once we know the reference between the shaft coupling and the engine beds, that will give us an idea of, we have a variety of kind of off-the-shelf mounts, and in some cases we can do custom mounts if necessary. But it also will give the customer the option of, we can lay that out in CAD or in real kind of renderings, give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And so some of this, a customer may want to just modify the engine beds if they're good with glass work, but also Beta Marine will do custom mounts if you don't do the work or you just want to have a drop in. And it is really nice when the measurements are there and everything works out and the engine just drops in. That is a great thing to not have to modify the boat.
Well, we're going to give this thing a shot and see if I can do this. It'll be the biggest project that I've done in the boat works so far, and certainly the biggest project on this boat. But I think it'll be fascinating to kind of watch this process, all the little things we got to go through, from ordering the engine to, doing the engine beds to figuring out all the different engine components that we're going to be putting inside there, how it all goes together. I'm looking forward to it in the future. So thanks for your help.
It's one thing to kind of think about it, and then once you start getting where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, it's okay, well, what about this? What about this? So we encourage that because, again, we want the installation to be successful and hopefully get the boat back out on the water as soon as possible. I know that you've been working on this. We've been certainly been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
So glad to see you're getting closer to the repower phase. And once you get it in, I'm sure you're gonna have questions, and that's what we're here for.
I hope you got something out of this episode. Trust me when I say there's lots of great things to come. I hope you join me Fridays for new episodes from the Boat Werks. We'll see you next time. Stay motivated. If you're thinking about restoring a classic sailboat or an old trawler, check out all of the videos on my YouTube channel. Consider joining the workers or taking advantage of my boat restoration consulting services. I offer personal coaching for your boat restoration project. Be sure to like and subscribe. This channel would not be possible without your support. Thank you.